Hello, everyone. Welcome. If you want to know the latest news of where Kotlin stands today and what awaits us in the future, you've tuned in to the right talk. Today, I will be presenting with my colleagues from the Kotlin team, Igor Tolstoy, Head of Product Management, Stanislav Yerokhin, Head of Development, Svetlana Isakova, the Lead Developer Advocate for Kotlin, Roman Yelizarov, Head of the Language Research Team, and Anastasia Kapanina, the Product Manager for the Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile team. Together, we will give you an overview of all things Kotlin today. All we have today is 30 minutes, and there is a lot to tell. So we will be referring you to other talks that will cover in depth the topics that we're only touching upon. Note those links, and we will be calling them out. As you know, Kotlin 1.4 was released on August 17th this year. I hope most of you have already upgraded. The feedback that we've been hearing so far is generally positive, and where it is not, I hope that our 1.4.10 and 0.20 updates will be fixing your issues. If you run into any problems, please feel free to report them to us. We'll be really happy to help. Meanwhile, our team is working on the future of Kotlin. We're on the new 6-month release cadence now. So Kotlin 1.5 is planned for the spring 2021. It makes the release cycle shorter, so expect fewer features, fewer changes. But in exchange, the release will come sooner. It will be better for everyone. For these upcoming months, we'll keep our focus on quality and performance on the one hand, and on making Kotlin shine on the server side and multi-platform mobile development on the other. My colleagues will tell you more about it in just a minute, but first, let's look at the bigger picture. As some of you heard me say before, we think of Kotlin as more than just a language. It's not only a spec, a set of rules, a compiler, a toolchain, an IDE, or a set of libraries. It's much more than that. Kotlin is an ecosystem that starts with people. Kotlin is us, all of us. You, me, my colleagues at JetBrains, and everyone who reads and writes Kotlin code for work, as a learning project, or as a hobby. You can say it's everyone who can complain about the slow builds or the ternary operator. By the way, we're working on that. I mean the builds. The Kotlin ecosystem is all these people sharing the same ideas. How we think about code, what abstractions we use, how we express our thoughts. And of course, we all use the same software. Libraries, the compiler, the IDE, and so on. And Kotlin is us, people, connected by ideas and software. Igor will tell you more on how the Kotlin ecosystem is doing and what trends we see there. Welcome, Igor.
As Andrei has said, the Kotlin ecosystem is all about the people, those who use Kotlin for solving their tasks and those who also give something back. Kotlin owes much of its success to the enthusiasts who evangelize it in communities, share their experience with teams, and lead the effort to introduce it to the codebase of industry projects. And we are very proud to see that the number of people using Kotlin is constantly increasing. It means that both the enthusiasts and the people they're influencing love the language. In the last 12 months, nearly 6 million people have edited Kotlin code in their IDE at least once, which is 1.5 times more than last year and 6 times more than the year before. But there is one more metric which is important for Kotlin, the number of active users. It shows us the number of developers who are using Kotlin professionally. An active user is a developer who writes Kotlin code regularly. In our case, it means that they wrote some code both this month and in the previous month. And this number is also very impressive. We have more than 1.2 million active developers this year, which is 50% higher than last year. Sounds great, right? But the core of Kotlin community consists of developers who not only actively use Kotlin, but also give something back. There are lots of types of contributions that make you a part of our community. It can be making pull requests to the Kotlin toolchain, reporting issues in our issue tracker, giving talks at conferences, or even open sourcing your Kotlin code. These are just a few examples of the active members of our community. They are awesome. And we are happy to see that the community is growing together with our user base. For example, on Stack Overflow, there are more and more questions and answers about Kotlin every year. Each new question posted on Stack Overflow helps not just the author, but everyone who visits it, and that can be hundreds or thousands of people. Nearly 200,000 new repositories were created on GitHub this year, with Kotlin as a primary language, which is twice as many as the year before. Over 30,000 Kotlin developers are now exchanging knowledge and supporting each other on Slack and Reddit. And more than 90,000 people now follow our official Twitter account for tips, tricks, and announcements. With over 200 user groups worldwide, the Kotlin community is thriving and growing. If you want to know more about how to become a part of the community and help the ecosystem, visit my talk later today that is called Staying in Touch, where I will provide some hints and tips about contributing to Kotlin. We are happy to be a part of the community ourselves, and one of our recent investments is enhancing the performance and quality of Kotlin. We believe that a great developer experience is key to the happiness and productivity of both individual developers and their teams. I'm sure each of you has at one time or another experienced the perfect state of flow, that wonderful state of being fully immersed in solving a problem, where you're deeply focused on the task at hand and actually enjoying the process. I believe that the primary task of a great tooling is to help a developer get in the flow state and stay there for as long as possible. The worst enemy of the flow state is sudden interruptions, like exceptions or performance problems. Just imagine, you're immersed in a complex task, building a beautiful castle of abstractions in your mind, when suddenly the syntax highlighting stops working and your code turns red. The best case scenario is you'll spend some time fixing the problem and then get back to work. But the worst case is your workday is ruined and you can't focus anymore. That's one of the reasons why quality and performance are key priorities for Kotlin. And I'm very proud of the results we've been able to achieve in this area. We've significantly reduced the time it takes for the code completion suggestions to appear. Based on the data from our recent releases, the number of cases where the completion window appears really fast has reached 70%, and the number of slower cases has been significantly reduced. Besides auto-completion, we have also worked on improving the highlighting speed. The most impressive results were achieved for large Kotlin files. When you open such a file for the first time, you see its content highlighted up to 3 times faster than it was before. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We fixed numerous UI freezes, memory leaks, and performance problems, and launched new IDE features to improve the developer experience. There is actually a lot to cover on the recent IDE improvements, so we have a dedicated talk from Anton Yalashev later today all about quality and performance in IntelliJ IDEs. It's a great talk. You definitely don't want to miss it. Performance and quality isn't a one-time activity for the Kotlin team. We consider it key to the happiness and productivity of Kotlin developers, so we are committed to making it great. We have lots of plans for the upcoming months that will improve the overall developer experience with both IDE and build tools. But in the long run, we plan to drastically improve the performance of code completion and syntax highlighting by switching the Kotlin plugin to a new compiler frontend. It's a complex project, and we are currently in the early stages of implementing its first prototype. But we believe that it will be a game changer. I know that you're excited, so now I will hand you over to Stanislav Yerokhin, the head of development for Kotlin, who will tell you more about our new compiler.
Build speed is one of the biggest concerns for our users, and increasing it is really important to us. We've delivered different incremental improvements over the years, but as you know, we've decided to address this issue fundamentally and rewrite the core of the Kotlin compiler. The obvious goal for the new compiler is for it to be really fast, but we also wanted to unify all the supported platforms and be pluggable, meaning it will provide the API for compiler extensions. We started working on it some time ago, and we are now ready to share some of our achievements. The Kotlin compiler consists of 2 parts, the frontend and the backends. The frontend takes the source code, analyzes it, finds the exact functions, property, or class to be called in each case, and calculates the types of all the variables, expressions, and so on. Then the backends generate executables for different target platforms. In the current compiler, the frontend accounts for more than 70% of the compilation time. In the new compiler, we've significantly optimized the frontend, and it's now 4.5 times faster than in the old compiler. Also, as Igor mentioned before, the IDE uses the same frontend for its work, so the performance of the IDE will be drastically improved. This year, our goal is to get the new Kotlin compiler to correctly compile itself. This part is not ready for production just yet, and it still needs a year or so to reach the alpha state. In the meanwhile, we are bringing you other parts of the new compiler, the new type inference algorithm and new backends. Kotlin 1.4 comes with new type inference algorithm. It solves a lot of issues involving inconsistent behavior and makes evolving the language easier. In short, this new algorithm makes it possible to implement new language features that we previously couldn't. The new type inference implementations support complicated scenarios involving code that exploit generic functions, smart-cast, callable reference, or delegated properties. You can learn about it in more detail and see code examples in Svetlana Isakova talk, New Language Features. The second change we want to highlight is our move to unify Kotlin backends. Historically, the first two target platforms for Kotlin were JVM and JS, and the backends were implemented independently of each other and didn't share much logic. Because of that, some language features required double the work to support, as they had to be implemented in the JVM backend and in the JS backend. With Kotlin Native, we started working on unified backend internal representation of the source code that nowadays is used in JVM and JSIR-based backends. This way, with a unified backend infrastructure, we can implement features that fix bugs only once. But that isn't all. The new infrastructure allows us to significantly improve the size of the resulting binary in JSIR backend by up to 2 times compared with the old JS backend. And it allows Google to make Jetpack Compose as a plugin for JVM IR backend. Right now, both IR backends, Kotlin JVM and Kotlin JS, are in alpha status, and we want to take into account all your feedback before making them the new default. So please try them out. And that's all I had to tell you about our new compiler. Let's move further and discuss what's new in a variety of Kotlin feature areas. And we'll start with Roman Elizarov, who will talk about one of Kotlin's most important applications, Kotlin for server-side.
Kotlin was born as a JVM language, had naturally encompassed Android, and then spread onto the other platforms. All things JVM are still a big focus of the language, and that means the domain where JVM shines, server-side applications. JVM is the largest server-side platform in the world, employing millions of developers. More than half of the JVM server developers use Spring, the most popular server-side JVM framework. It nicely pairs with Kotlin concise syntax and various core Kotlin features like properties. Thanks to interoperability, Kotlin is not only used by new projects, but it is also being gradually adopted by big projects. Working on a mixed Java Kotlin project is a breeze. As the Java language evolves, we're committed to providing support for all the latest Java language features that come out. So rest assured that seamless integration with upcoming Java records and SIL classes is high on our Kotlin language design priority list. We're also keeping track of potential future developments like Project Valhalla and Project Loom to ensure that you'll be able to use Kotlin with the most recent versions of JVM and integrate with the modern Java code. In Kotlin 1.4, we've closed one big feature request that blocked a number of server-side Java developers from Kotlin adoption. It used to be a case that only interfaces defined in Java could be subject to SAM conversion, allowing for easy usage with Kotlin lambdas. Now Kotlin functional interfaces, marked with the fun keyword, can enjoy the same benefits, making it easier to convert your Java code to Kotlin. Many advanced Kotlin features, like coroutines and delegated properties, were designed to simplify repeating hard-to-support patterns of code that often appear in the server-side code. Coroutines in particular fit especially well to work with the reactive framework on the server, making developers more productive, producing code that has less programming language ceremony and more business domain substance. The release of Coroutines Debugger in Kotlin 1.4 adds to this story. There are a lot of major JVM server-side frameworks that you can naturally use with Kotlin. We've recently released a dedicated web page to highlight the productive server-side development with Kotlin. There you can find links to Kotlin tutorials and examples for all of them. There is one server-side framework that is developed from ground up in Kotlin by the Kotlin team at JetBrains, and it is being used by key JetBrains products like Space. This framework is called Ktor. It fully embraces Kotlin design philosophy and is based entirely on Kotlin coroutines to achieve high scalability. It provides an easy-to-use API, and its features are pluggable and extensible. Ktor is also actively used outside of JetBrains, so we get a lot of feedback. One of the aspects that people like about Ktor is how simple it is to get up and running without any magic in pure Kotlin code. We've recently increased the team size in Cater and have a lot of plans in place for the framework, not only in terms of features and functionality, but also commitment to API stability and release cadence. Modern server-side often means serverless, yet setting up the corresponding infrastructure is far from easy. When something is repetitive, verbose, or hard to maintain, that's where Kotlin comes in. In particular, Kotlin, the experimental serverless Kotlin framework that focuses on reducing the routine of serverless deployment by generating straight from the code of the application itself, whether you write your application with Spring or Cater. I'm happy to announce that we are forming a separate team to work on the Kotlin project, expanding support for cloud platforms with the addition of Google Cloud Platform and adding support for Graal VM runtime. How big is Kotlin server-side adoption? It is big and growing. I'll show just a few examples. Atlassian is using Kotlin for all its new services development. Adobe prefers Kotlin to Java to streamline its server-side code and get better developer experience. ING Bank is increasing its productivity with Kotlin. And there are many more stories like that. There are other talks to watch during this Kotlin Online event focused on server-side in general, Cater, and Kotlin. Please join them to learn more. Next, Svetlana Isakova will tell you about Kotlin multi-platform.
Our vision is for Kotlin to be a reliable companion for all your undertakings, a default language choice for whatever project you decide to work on next. With Kotlin, you can apply your knowledge of the language when you switch to a new platform. Like you're an Android developer and decide that you want to implement a web version of your app, or you're interested in writing server-side code. You can reuse your skills and expertise by choosing the language that you're already familiar with. Kotlin multi-platform technology helps to achieve that. Here is how it works. At its core, there is common Kotlin. It consists of the language and the core libraries. You can write the Kotlin code once and then compile it to different target platforms, such as JVM.js or native Violet VM. You can interact with different platforms using platform-specific versions of Kotlin. You can easily mix Java and Kotlin code together when it's compiled to JVM, use TypeScript definitions from Kotlin.js code, or call Kotlin native code from Swift. We are working on the set of core libraries, and we encourage the community to join our effort and provide multi-platform versions of more domain-specific libraries. During our event, you can learn the details about each of the core libraries in the corresponding talks. Anonymous statistics shows us that 10% of IntelliJ IDEA users, including both Ultimate and Community versions, build their projects for more than one platform. That's very exciting news for us. Let's build the future together using the Kotlin multi-platform technology. We are seeing more and more people using Kotlin.js for sharing business logic between server and web clients, or alongside mobile targets, which is really exciting for us. The web target for Kotlin multi-platform is an important strategic investment for Kotlin. It's actively used inside the company to build and ship JetBrains Space. It's a big project with more than 70 developers working on it, and it's full-stack Kotlin. We are working in close collaboration with the Space team. We analyze and approve their first-hand experience of using Kotlin multi-platform for web with the goal of making it a mature technology in the future. What's new to Kotlin.js in 1.4? You can try the new compiler backend, which is currently in alpha. It will become the new default in the near future, and it considerably improves the size of generated binaries. It also comes with a new, more comfortable way of interoperating with the JavaScript and TypeScript ecosystem. In addition to the new compiler, 1.4 also introduces new features for managing style sheets and PEM dependencies and more, all of which are ready for you to use. We warmly welcome the growing number of community libraries and frameworks for Kotlin.js, like FreezeDo, Doodle, Kvision, or Corogy. We are working on the WebAssembly target for Kotlin. WebAssembly is the new web standard supported by all the major browsers. It exposes a virtual machine to the users of the browser, and of course we would like for Kotlin to run on it. We are working on the compiler prototype that uses the WebAssembly proposal for garbage collection and collaborating with the WebAssembly VM vendors to make sure that Kotlin will be a good fit in their ecosystem. If you want to learn more about the current state of Kotlin.js and its future, I'd suggest listening to the talk from my colleague Sebastian Eigner, Kotlin.js in 1.4 and beyond. Don't miss it. Next, Anastasia will talk about another important application of Kotlin multi-platform technology, using it for mobile development.
Since 2019, Kotlin has been a recommended language for Android development. Our team has put in a lot of effort into making the lives of Android developers easier and more enjoyable, and the Android community has been truly supportive. But what if we can go further? Sharing code between Android and iOS is the holy grail of mobile development. Write your app for one platform and get it running on the other one without having to redo your work. Wouldn't like that, right? But there's a problem. These platforms are really different, especially when it comes to the UI layer. They have different navigation logics, different controls, different best practices. At the same time, however, the business logic, such as network and data management or some internal calculations, is often the same for both platforms. This makes it natural to share only parts of the app you really need to share, and then leverage all Android or iOS platform-specific capabilities when you need them. Kotlin multi-platform technology gives you this flexibility. Over the last year, we have concentrated on turning this technological possibility into a smooth and enjoyable end-to-end user experience. And with 1.4, we have released Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile, an SDK for cross-platform mobile development. With KMM, you can write your multi-platform Kotlin code in Android Studio, an IDE you are already used to, and run an iOS application from the same tab you used to run your Android app. Write cross-platform tests in common code and launch them on both Android and iOS targets, all from the same IDE. If you want to create a new multi-platform project from scratch, there are comprehensive guides and an IDE wizard to get you started. And if you have an existing Android application written in Kotlin, you don't have to throw your entire codebase out of a window just to make it cross-platform. You can reuse the code you have already written. Create a new multi-platform module in your Android app using the special wizard we have created. Move your existing Android code to this module and integrate it with the iOS app. Integration with the iOS ecosystem is seamless. With Objective-C interoperability, a framework produced from Kotlin code looks just like any other iOS framework. And we have improved support for the CocoaPods dependency manager to make this integration even easier. Now it takes just a bit of initial setup and a couple of strings in the build script. Join these developers who are already using KMM in production and join its capabilities. Autodesk has introduced Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile to their PlanGrid app to ship a single source of truth for offline sync logic and data models on 3 platforms: Android, iOS, and Windows. Quizlet migrated their business logic from a shared JavaScript approach to KMM, and by doing that, they drastically improved the performance of both their Android and iOS applications. TouchLab, IceFrog, and MyGo use KMM to deliver better apps for their clients on both platforms and to reduce the time these apps spend in development. Even an app for an ambitious startup run by a single developer, the Hue Essentials app, is powered by KMM. And this is only the beginning. Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile is an alpha, and we have a lot of exciting things planned for the future. A better onboarding experience, painless Gradle configuration, faster compilation, of course, iOS ecosystem interoperability improvements, new IDE features and bug fixes, and lots of infrastructure and stability work. Take your existing application and make it multi-platform right now If you are interested in mobile development with Kotlin, Android, or multi-platform, the third day of our online event has talks just for you. Florina Montanescu will talk about the state of Kotlin for Android. Yekaterina Petrova will offer an introduction to Kotlin multi-platform mobile for newcomers. And if you are already familiar with Kotlin multi-platform, Dmitry Savinov will be there with his Diving into Multi-Platform talk to expand the borders of your understanding. Stay tuned. And now, let me pass it over back to Andrei.
Thank you, Anastasia. Thanks, everyone. 10 years ago, we started Kotlin as a better language for the JVM. But over time, it became a lot more than that. Today, Kotlin is a community of backend developers and frontend developers, mobile developers and web developers. We see more and more cloud users among us, and even data science in Kotlin is already a thing, exciting as it is. Today, we did a quick survey of the key parts of the Kotlin ecosystem and outlined the primary direction we're taking right now. To sum it up very, very briefly, 1, we're doubling down on the performance and bug fixing, so we'll be making Kotlin faster and smoother for you. 2, the new compiler is underway, making good progress. It will bring really big speed-ups and lots of flexibility in the future. 3, we're investing a lot into the server-side use cases. We'll keep improving in this area on all fronts, from the language to the frameworks. And 4, Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile is our first step in productizing all the cool multi-platform technology we have developed. All we presented today is a very high-level picture. If you want more details, make sure to look at our roadmap that we published recently. Here's a link. It's up on the website. Check it out. What we didn't really talk much about today is the exciting new language features that may await us in the future. I'm sure many of you will be curious to know more about them. So there's a dedicated talk by Roman Yelizarov named The Future of Kotlin. This talk will give you a glimpse of the challenges that the language research team is working on now. So Roman will talk about what kinds of features Kotlin can have and what kinds it cannot have in the future. You know how it goes, no promises, but lots of insight. So check out this talk if you're interested in the future of the language as such. Well, it's been a packed 30 minutes. We're really excited to be talking to you. Sharing our plans and vision and hearing your feedback is always a thrilling experience. We have 4 days of talks, Q&As, and discussions ahead of us. Lots of interactions. This is the first time we're doing it online. I feel a bit nervous, but I'm sure it will all go very well. I wish you to have a good one. Have fun, and have a nice Kotlin.